What's up, everybody? It's the Ungood Gamer, aka Row Your Boat 2325, aka Meme Senpai, and I got a video, a long-awaited video that nobody has been waiting for. I've put off this video for a long time for no reason at all. So this video is about my first PC build. Those of you who know me know that I've been streaming on Twitch for a little over a year. I started out streaming on my PS4, then ended up getting an Elgato HD60S and streaming through my work laptop when I was a graduate assistant. But now that I've graduated, I needed something else to stream through, preferably a PC that would be able to stream at the same time as being able to game. So I've been planning and saving up, also while doing research to make sure that I know what I'm doing. So I've probably spent 6 months or so preparing myself to be able to build this thing, and I'm very proud to say that I have built my first PC. If you want to check out all the parts I used, you can look at them right here. You can check out the link in the video description. I'll post it down there and it'll show you the entire list of all the parts that I used. I will be going through each part as I install them into my computer later on in the video, describing how I use them and why I bought them. I try and go in as much detail about how I'm building my computer in this video, just to try and show people if they're looking to build their own computer, you know, some tips and tricks, maybe some don'ts if you look back at it and find out that there's something wrong that I did. But without any further ado, let's get building. Alright guys, so getting right into it, we're going to start off with the motherboard. So the Asus Strix B350 motherboard was a little more on the expensive side than what I had anticipated on spending, but I did get a pretty good deal on it when I matched it with the 1700X Ryzen 7 chip. So altogether I got both for right around $200. The Strix board was down from 120 to about 70, and then an extra 30% off when I matched it with the 1700X, and I got that for about $25 off, down to just about $150. So I know that typically the CPU is the first thing to go into the motherboard, but I have this Intel 660p M.2 SSD, and I didn't really know how to put it in exactly. I went to the manual, had to look at that, and I actually put it in the wrong way at first. So it comes with 2 screws, and I put both screws in at the same time. But what I had to do is put the first screw in, lay this on top, and then put the second screw in to fasten it. So if you couldn't tell by now, I am learning as I go. I'm very new at this. And you can even see me in some of these time lapses taking a couple seconds or even minutes looking at these instructions, because I was a little unprepared. I just figured I had all the parts and I could just jump right into it. But it really showed me that you should really do your research before jumping into something like this. So I mentioned it before, but I got a nice deal on this Ryzen 7 1700X. I wasn't necessarily looking for a first generation Ryzen. I think in every estimated build that I had a 2600, but for the price that I got matched with the motherboard and the core thread count, it is a 8-core 16-thread CPU, and that really will help me when it comes to playing games and streaming at the same time. Alright, so one important thing that I've learned when putting in a CPU is that I need to match up this triangle with the triangle in this bottom left corner of the Ryzen chip, and it's actually surprisingly heavy. I was really surprised to find out how heavy it actually was, and I wasn't expecting that. So we're going to lift up this retention arm, and we're going to grab that CPU, and we're going to drop it in, looking to have those 2 triangles lined up. Now, one of the nice things about AMD chips that I really like compared to Intel chips is that the pins are actually on the CPU, so compared to an LGA board, you don't have to worry about the pins being on the board. They're actually on the CPU, and we will put down the retention arm and snap it in. Alright, so I have the heatsink mounts all screwed in, and I'm moving on to the thermal paste. I went with Chronaut Thermal Grizzly. I was on eBay and there was a promotion for $5 off a $5 purchase or a $5.01 purchase. So this was between $6.99 and $7.99. So I got that $5 off down to under $2, and it's on the higher side in terms of quality, but I was able to splurge a little bit because of that promotion. And it should ultimately help my CPU temperatures in the end. My CPU heatsink did come with thermal paste, but just because it's stock Cooler Master, I trust the research that I did in Thermal Grizzly a little bit more. So I'm going to try and do this one-handed, and we'll see how it goes. Now I'm going to put this thermal paste straight onto the CPU, and they usually say to do about a pea size. So I'm going to make sure that I'm not going to put on too much, but at the same time I don't want to not put enough on, but that seems like a good amount for now. And we're going to use the nifty little spatula that came in the packaging to apply the paste. It says to spread it thinly. We're just going to make a couple nice little happy strokes there. Maybe put a little happy bush right there. We want to make sure we're spreading it out evenly, but I think I might be able to use a little more. I feel like a lot of people don't necessarily spread it out, but if a quality product gave me a spatula, I might as well use it, you know? Alright, I'm going to put more on, and I'm going to put pretty much the entire tube in. I wasn't sure whether it would be too much, but we went full send on this. And I assume that if they send it like that, I'm going to be using the whole thing. So we're going to finish up, maybe paint a nice little sky. And it's really starting to spread evenly. I think it's going to come out really nicely, not too dirty whatsoever. Not my brightest moment right here. How about this? Leave the frame if you got thermal paste on your hand and had to go wipe it off like an idiot. Now that I have the heatsink in and ready to go, I have these wires which I will worry about later. Cable management should be fun, but onto the RAM, I went with Corsair Vengeance LPX DDR4 2x8 for 16 total gigs of memory and 3000 millihertz frequency. This is low profile in white, so I know that right now with the motherboard and my heatsink, it does not look like white is in the mix. But with the case and this RAM along with the LEDs, it should be black and white. Now let's put these bad boys in. That concludes our ASMR portion. Now it's time to put the motherboard into the case. For the case, I went with the H500 from NZXT, and this was mainly because of its great ability for cable management. Being that I am the definition of a novice builder, I wanted something that would provide as little complication as possible, and I think that this case is just the one for me. One other thing, this case comes with two stock 120mm fans for exhaust, so I'll actually be taking these out and replacing it with these Deep Cool RF 120M RGB fans. They're not ARGB, but that's okay. I want to probably just run white lights in here, being that I don't have a ton of components that match my scheme other than this white RAM, and I want to make sure I'm getting as much white in this as I can. So I want to take these fans out first before I put the motherboard in, because I don't want to have to fidget around with these, especially with the heatsink being as big as it is. So now that I have my two deep cool 120mm exhaust fans in, I can daisy chain these, which is really nice. It'll be good for RGB later down the road. But it comes with this nifty little RGB fan hub, which allows me to put these two with the RF 140s that I have here from Deep Cool as well. And I'm going to put them in the front exhaust right here. So I can daisy chain these two, and I can put those two exhaust chained. And what that's going to let me do is to plug in those 4 fans into this one hub while being connected to a single RGB header on my board. And with that, it is finally time to get that out of there, to put the motherboard into the computer. So I looked at some builds online, and what I did notice is that the majority of them use the 2nd and 4th channel for RAM on their motherboard, and a lot of them did have fancy liquid cooling rather than air cooling, and there was some softline tubing that may have gotten in the way of the 1st channel of RAM, so they just wanted to give themselves enough room as possible and put it in the 2nd and 4th. But if those builds worked, I can't argue with the placement, so I'm going to go with 2nd and 4th, because I would hate to turn this bad boy on for the first time and it not to work. So I'm trying to just make sure that it's as compatible as possible. So just to be safe, I am moving my RAM to the 2nd and 4th slots on my board. Alright, so I'm officially a dummy. So I took out the grills for my GPU on the case so that these outputs could be lined up with the PCIe, and I was like, alright, well, this is a problem. Doesn't really fit. Well, I'm an idiot. I took off the entire I/O shield on my GPU, thinking that that's what I had to do to get all these ports to line up with these brackets, only to realize that the vertical mount on this case is adjustable, because NZXT is way smarter than me, so I can fit this bad boy right in there now. So I have my GTX 1070 into the motherboard. These screws were a little tough to manage. I was worried because I had to pull the card back towards the back of the case and then push the back of the case in towards the card. But it's in there. It's snug, just as it should be, but I guess we'll see if there's any problems when I try and boot for the first time and it doesn't recognize or something like that. But I think it's time to put in the front intake fans. So as I mentioned before, I have the RF 140s, which are exactly the same as these Deep Cool 120mm fans I already have installed in the case, except obviously they are bigger, and these are going to be used for the front panel air intake, but they can also be used for radiators, but I don't have a radiator because I'm not bougie like that. But let's get these in and worry about cabling them later. So I have my power supply, and I had to do a little bit of research, and because of the specific design of the H500 case, it does have to be mounted upside down, but luckily because of the shroud, none of that upside down stuff has to be shown, but it's crucial that the fan be facing downward toward that vent so that my computer does not completely explode. Alright guys, here's a clip from day 2. I pretty much stopped yesterday after putting the power supply in, just because I needed to do the wiring and I really wasn't sure, but I'm actually pretty proud of how cleanly the H500 let me put everything in, at least for now. We'll see how it fits in the back, but yeah, I just wanted to make sure before doing everything that it worked and turned on, and then like an idiot I had everything plugged in and ready to go except bingo, turning on that switch. So you'll see here, it's actually a pretty exciting moment. I have motherboard power, and yeah, so I go and I try again, and boom. Couple things right and couple things wrong here. So the fan lights are working. The fans are not on, except for the heatsink fan. GPU light is on, which is a good sign. So I went back after this, and I actually needed to daisy chain these fans a little bit better, and I got them all working with the lights. But most importantly, I got a post on my first try, but we'll get back into that in a bit. Alright, so I got the heatsink fan to light up. I was a dummy, and I flipped the RGB header so that the power pin was in one of the colors, but I fixed that. I was just pretty dumb, turned it around, immediately started working. So now I have my hard drive with Windows preloaded onto it. So all I need to do is download it, and I'm working through the BIOS, trying to make sure that this thing works, and possibly overclock it right out of the gate. Alright. The piece de resistance. Oh yeah. And the sticker? Hopefully it's easy to take off. Oh yeah. And there she is, in all her glory. I did it, guys. Now I thought I had done it. I really did. It worked for about 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden my computer started crashing at random times. Whether I was streaming or playing a game, it would just completely freeze. I would have to do a hard reset on it, and it actually got to the point where I was getting so many errors so often that I had to do a clean install of Windows. I did countless hours of testing to make sure my overclocking was correct, and I actually did finally get it to where it was running stable. I haven't had it crash in a long time now. I haven't had any problems whatsoever over the past 2 months, but it was definitely a very, very frustrating moment for me, thinking that I had done everything that I needed to do to get it up and running, and then find out that either some sort of driver software combination of the two wouldn't allow my PC to run the way that I would hope so. So I spent probably a good weekend, at least 15 hours testing, doing stress tests on my computer, make sure that it didn't crash, as well as tinkering with the overclocks again to make sure that it worked. But in the end, I'm here, it's working, this thing's a beast. I run 144 when I play Fortnite while streaming, no problems. I think it was medium to high settings, epic view distance, anti-aliasing off, everything like that. So it's definitely come to the point where I can enjoy the thing that I've built. And for all the time I spent planning and saving, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. This is definitely something that I've never done before. I've never really gone into setting up a video for YouTube like this, so I really hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to share it, like, subscribe, hit that bell notification, bro. No, just kidding. But seriously, if you guys did like this, please let me know. Feel free to follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/theyounggoodgamer. Feel free to follow me on Instagram, Twitter. I post a lot of clips and everything like that there. Some memes, of course. So all of that will be down in the video description along with the parts list for this build. So yeah, peace out, guys.